This is Tom and Paula Graves from Light of Christ Radio with a chapter from our series called The Greatest Story.
You're welcome to watch this video simply for the story, or you can use it as the basis of a small group study.
Instructions for the small group study can be found in the Show More section below this video.
Today, we continue our series called The Greatest Story, and we are taking a journey through the Old Testament, as today's story is about freedom from Exodus 14.
Well, Paula, to set the context of our story, God's good creation was corrupted by sin. After rebellious people tried to build the Tower of Babel, God called Abraham.
And God gave Abram a promise of land, descendants, and a blessing, but he'd also warned him that the nation of his descendants would be in bondage for 400 years.
And this happened as the Hebrew people became slaves in Egypt. God sent Moses and 10 plagues to convince Pharaoh to release the people.
But after he had released them, Pharaoh regretted allowing these people to leave, and he sent an army to bring them back.
And Pharaoh was sure he was about to capture the nation of Israel as his army had them pinned against the Red Sea.
Which brings us to a story from the Word of God.
As Pharaoh approached, the people of Israel looked up and panicked when they saw the Egyptians overtaking them. They cried out to the Lord, and they said to Moses,
"Why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness? Weren't there enough graves for us in Egypt? What have you done to us? Why did you make us leave Egypt? It's better to be a slave in Egypt than a corpse in the wilderness."
But Moses told the people, "Don't be afraid. Just stand still and watch the Lord rescue you today. The Egyptians you see today will never be seen again. The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm."
And then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to get moving. Pick up your staff and raise your hand over the sea. Divide the waters so the Israelites can walk through the middle of the sea on dry ground. And I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they will charge in after the Israelites. My great glory will be displayed through Pharaoh and his troops, his chariots, and his charioteers. When my glory is displayed through them, all Egypt will see my glory and know that I am the Lord."
Then the angel of God, who had been leading the people of Israel, moved to the rear of the camp. The pillar of cloud also moved from the front and stood behind them. The cloud settled behind the Egyptian and Israelite camps. As darkness fell, the cloud turned to fire, lighting up the night. But the Egyptians and the Israelites did not approach each other all night.
Then Moses raised his hand over the sea, and the Lord opened up a path through the water with a strong east wind. The wind blew all that night, turning the seabed into dry land. So the people of Israel walked through the middle of the sea on dry ground, with walls of water on each side.
Then the Egyptians, all of Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and charioteers, chased them into the middle of the sea. But just before dawn, the Lord looked down on the Egyptian army from the pillar of fire and cloud, and he threw their forces into total confusion. He twisted their chariot wheels, making their chariots difficult to drive. "Let's get out of here, away from these Israelites," the Egyptians shouted. "The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt."
And when all of the Israelites had reached the other side, the Lord said to Moses, "Raise your hand over the sea again." Then the waters will rush back and cover the Egyptians and their chariots and charioteers. So as the sun began to rise, Moses raised his hand over the sea, and the water rushed back into its usual place. The Egyptians tried to escape, but the Lord swept them into the sea.
Then the waters returned and covered all the chariots and charioteers, the entire army of Pharaoh. Of all the Egyptians who had chased the Israelites into the sea, not a single one survived.
But the people of Israel had walked through the middle of the sea on dry ground, as the water stood up like a wall on both sides. That is how the Lord rescued Israel from the hand of the Egyptians that day.
And the Israelites saw the bodies of the Egyptians washed up on the seashore. When the people of Israel saw the mighty power that the Lord had unleashed against the Egyptians, they were filled with awe before him. They put their faith in the Lord and his servant Moses.
And this is a story from the Word of God.
If you're using this video for small group application, after you've watched this video, try retelling the story from what you have heard.
Then read the text. Discussion questions are below in the Show More section.
We hope this will help you on your journey of life.
Be blessed.